with KPIs. And I think one of the biggest things that was an eye opener for me was the difference between a KPI and a metric. And different people call them different things. I call them these things because I wanted to distinguish between the two. And I can't find a hard and fast, like actual way that everybody does it. The only thing I did realize is that everybody calls it something differently. Everybody uses the word KPIs. They don't always mean the same thing. And there was about 100 different names for what I call metrics. So I have broken them up into KPIs, which are key performance indicators, or those are the actions that people are taking. And then the metrics are the results that those actions produce. And so I always use Steph Curry as my example, right? Steph Curry takes 10 3-point shots. On average, he is going to make 4 to 5 of them, right? So the KPI would be the number of shots he has taken, and the metric would be the number of shots he's made. You can't control metrics. And the law of averages are sometimes crazy, right? Sometimes Steph Curry takes 10 shots and he makes 9 of them. And another day, he had one game where he missed like 10 in a row, which I'm like, man, like that. I mean, I can miss 10 in a row. I should play in the NBA if missing 10 in a row is the desired outcome, right? So that's why I distinguish those, is because we can control the number of actions we take. We can't control the outcome, right? So you can do the perfect sales presentation, and if someone's not ready to buy, they may not buy. And that the only thing you can do is just have enough of those good sales presentations that on average, more people buy, right? So with this in mind, when you're talking to your team, they need to know what are the most important KPIs, what are the most important actions that they can take, and what you think those actions will produce. And so, like Steph Curry, right? Like you want him taking threes. That is going to help your team score more points the more threes that he shoots. You do not want Rudy Gobert taking threes. I again use Rudy Gobert as an example because he played for the Jazz and he's got one of the worst jump shots I think in NBA history. So Rudy Gobert, his number one thing is defense and rebounds. And what makes this work is when you have someone whose one of their KPIs is defense, blocks and rebounds, and then you have Steph Curry whose KPIs are assists and 3-point shots. You need both, right? If you had Steph Curry as your center on defense, you would be very sad. He's not going to block a whole lot of shots. And so your team is the same way, is you kind of need to help them see where their part to play in the bigger picture is. Who is the one doing the leads? Who is the one doing the Google reviews? Who is the one earning the money? It's really important for your team to understand, though, that just because someone's earning the money doesn't make their role more important or less important than someone else's. Obviously, attorneys and paralegals are the ones who bill, and they're the ones who put things on the invoice. And those are probably one of the first people you're going to hire if you have a small team. But in order for them to bill things and put it on the invoice, you have to have clients. And so the team that's helping you acquire those clients are just as important. But if you acquire a bunch of new clients and then don't do the work, I think that's worse, right? That's pretty scary. You go get a bunch of clients and then don't service them. That's a great way to fail a business and get a bunch of 1-star reviews and sink, right? And so it's having a balance of those. But distinguishing between the actions people are taking and the results they're producing. And if you notice, what most of you mentioned is metrics, right? And dashboards are really good at producing metrics. So Clio, My Case, QuickBooks, all of them are really good at telling you what has happened, but they don't always tell you why it happened, right? And so like Paul the other day, the attorney that works for me, he had a collection rate of 105% last month. Well, that's a red flag. Why is it 105? What happened there? Well, what happened is he had a big $10,000 trial that he'd billed earlier payout. And so when his total billables are usually about 26,000, 25,000 a month, and he has 10,000 payout from another month, that really screwed up his metrics, right? And so I actually went through and backed that out and then figured of the 26,000 that he had billed this month, what percentage of that was collected, and that was only 80%. Like, well, that's not good, right? We normally have about a 95% collection rate, but I use that as an example because the metrics did not tell the whole story. If you had looked at just the metrics that Cleo had produced for us, his collection rate was 105%, and we smile. But realizing and asking yourself why, that number seems weird. Why is it so weird? Let's look into it and figure out why. In that case, it was one case that had, over 50% of his, almost 50% of his total collections were from that one case from a previous month. And so we started going through the other ones and figuring out which cases hadn't paid. And the cool thing is because we asked that question, we found a couple of cases that he had billed a couple $1,000s on and hadn't paid anything. They didn't have money in trust. And so I was able to reach out to those people, and two of them paid. We had about $4,000 come in just because I sent them or I gave them a call. And I doubt those people right before Christmas are going to pay us thousands of dollars without a reminder, right? And so by asking the question of why with our metrics, we collected a couple of grand, which my team's billings has been down a little bit the last couple of months. And so that's why we've been asking these questions a little bit more. And that's really what's saved our company the last couple of months, was asking some of these questions.